Hi guys, Randall here. So a couple hours ago, the official War Division's global YouTube channel released a summer Kilphe trailer saying she would be released this Wednesday. The video was immediately taken out, I'm guessing because they did not mean to announce it just yet, and thus they're waiting for the official announcement at reset time. We're still going to use that information though. I'll release my guide and then we'll get the official news in a couple hours. So today, we're taking a look at summer Kilphe, her kit, her strengths, her weaknesses, how to build her, how to counter her, and whether she's a good investment or not. Let's begin. Before we go too deep, since she's another time-limited unit, if you do want to crack that credit card or whatever, get some viz, a lot of War Division's content creators have Amazon affiliate links. Using those links provides you with a discount on one end and provides us with a little bit of funds to keep creating this content. So if you want to encourage me, there's a link below. Otherwise, just encourage somebody from our community. So here we go. Summer Kilphe is a really strong character with some very defined weaknesses. Overall, she's a magic bruiser. She's gonna have a ton of spirit, tons of HP, and really good attack. She is a versatile attacker that can ignore defense, ignore slash resistance, break barriers, and just deal really high damage, but all of her damaging abilities are limited to light slash attacks, so she's kind of sidelined to a single role. She has a low mobility of 3 and 1. She can increase that to 4 and 1, but has no ways to increase her jump, so that's a huge limitation she has. Then she's an axe user with helms, cloth, and accessories, so basically same as a Viking class. Her master ability increases light characters, so that's always fun. She's got a bit of extra spirit and attack. We're going to talk about that when we look at her stats in a minute there. Now, her TMR is really good. I don't recommend you pull her just for that. It's too much of a viz investment for a piece of gear, but if you do pull her, make sure you level that TMR. It's really good. Decent amount of HP, good spirit, good agility, which I always like to see on an accessory slot TMR. And then the active skill can be cast twice. Gives you 20 AP plus the TP cost, so 30 AP from every single cast, and then it gives you shell on top. So when you're low on AP in a fight and you need to generate some more in order to use a powerful ability in the next turn, this is the move to use because it's going to give you a lot of AP back. So for that reason, really strong, and then shell on top because why not, right? So I really like this, especially for manual setups where you don't have bells and you're too far away from a crystal, maybe to do something on the next turn. Now, Summer Kilphe's main role is a magic bruiser. She's got a bulky 4k HP with 16 spirit, which is really good, right? If we compare her to Oron, who's also really good at fighting mages, he only has 3800 HP and 10 spirit, so there's a pretty huge difference there. Then her attack is a little bit lower than what those other two guys have, right? She's got 500 compared to 600 on the side of Miraga and roughly 530 for Oron, so pretty big difference. She's got average luck, she's not going to be insanely evadey, but she will be really accurate through her passives and other buffs. Then her resistances are overall really good, right? Dark Weakness, I don't like seeing that. There's Dwayne, there's Helena in the meta right now, but she's got 10% slash resist, 15% magic resist, which means we can leverage that and build for a large amount of magic resist, especially because of her kit. Then she's resistant to charm, which I'll always like to see. It negates some shenanigans with Steelheart in manual PvP, not that impactful for the other game modes though. And 10% disable resist isn't terribly impactful, but it will reduce your chance to be disabled by enemy king mons, among other things, so it's a nice to have. So looking at her stats, I think she can work fine at 115. What you're missing out on is roughly 400 HP, 30 attack, and 2 spirit. These are all good to have, and she'll obviously perform better at 120. But I think if you need to save yourself the Blossoms or the Viz, you can slow farm the other spheres and still have a playable unit at 115. And then we'll take a look at her 120 ability shortly, and it's good, but again, not character defining. So that's something to consider. Now, if we look at her passives, she's got a passive that gives her accuracy and defense penetration. I think you'll always want this one on. In today's meta, units often have 20 defense or so, even if they're squishy mages, considering the good equipment that everybody has access to. And then tanks have upwards of 70 defense often, so if you don't have any source of defense penetration, you're just not doing damage. So the choice is between Thief Lore and Self-Sacrifice. On one end, if you're running Thief Lore, you move faster, you have more agility, and you're tankier because you're not dropping out all your resistances by 8%. She's more of a bruiser, so I think dropping your resistances is a huge deal, especially if you notice a difference between dying in 2 or 3 hits. You probably don't want to drop your resistances. However, she has about 490 attack, right? 60% of that will be close to 300 extra attack. That is a huge deal. So if you're going for one-shot builds or for raids or stuff like that, Self-Sacrifice is going to be super strong. Also, if you have a team comp that really protects her, go for Self-Sacrifice and just one-shot people. That's probably going to be very satisfying. Then her counter, I think you need Sword Guard, right? It's the only one that's going to be reliably increasing her survivability, and as such, it's the best one in my opinion. Then her Limit Burst, she's always going to have access to that, but unless you're running Bells, you're probably not going to be using it because it has a super high AP cost of 43. It's a single target attack that decreases light resistance by 38% and then deals damage. That's pretty cool because it enables light comps, and there's a lot of light element characters in the game right now. So it's going to enable your Yuna following up on that, or Sakurai if you're still running her, and then she's a great partner for Warrior of Light thanks to that ability as well. So there's a bunch of good options thanks to it. Now, if we look at her main job, this is the whole reason you might love or dislike her kit, because her sub-jobs are subpar, but her main job is really strong, right? She's got a 5-score attack that has a chance to slow. It's basically the basic auto attack. Every unit now has some kind of add-on to it, in her case, chance to slow. You will not want to run this girl at high faith though, because she's designed to fight enemy mages. If you increase her faith, she's going to die much quicker, so don't count on the slow landing often. Then her amulet thingy is really good. You're going to increase attack by 40% in an AoE, spirit by 15, and magic resistance by 20. So this means she's a really good enabler for physical teams that want to survive against a mage. It's going to increase your survivability in 2 different ways while increasing their offense as well. Overall, this is the reason why I think she's a good unit, because she is a great enabler on top of being a potential carry. She's got an attack that has an AoE pattern, chance of frostbite, and gives her regen. Why not, right? That's pretty good. And then if you do get the frostbite, it's really strong against enemy physical attackers, so it's her way of fighting them. It's not as impactful against enemy mages though. Because of their high initial AP, it's not going to be enough to prevent them from using any ability throughout the fight. Her next ability increases accuracy for allies in an AoE. That's really good, especially for manual PvP, I think, because when you don't have any guaranteed hit, you need some way to be accurate enough to actually hit these evasion guys. Otherwise, in some team comps, you're just flat out losing the match early on. So that's really good. It also increases her own slash resistance penetration, which is a pretty huge deal because she only has slash moves. So without that, she would be powerless against some targets. Now, she at least has a way to do some damage against them. Then melee range barrier breaking. I like that, but it's melee range. Chances are, if you're fighting a Black Witch Helena, she's going to be able to hit you first, and then you're not going to reach with that attack. You're going to reach with a longer range hit. So it's going to be really hard to get your one-shot kills in through enemy barriers because you just need to be in range. And then out of everything in her kit, sub-jobs included, this is the only ability with a range height of 2. And here is Summer Kilphe's major weakness. She does not have jump, other than jump 1, and she does not have any height range outside of a height range 1 or this melee attack that has a height range of 2. So if you want to make her completely useless, you just have to stand on high ground or low ground compared to her, and she won't even be able to attack you. So that's a pretty huge deal. The ability itself is really good, but it's short range, which means you won't get to use it that often. Then her new ability, Black Panther Piercing, is actually really good if you get her to 120 because it's another way to deal with tanks. Using this ability, she has 80 defense penetration if you have the right passive on, which means you're going to deal massive damage to a tank and then heal yourself back for a part of that damage so you can stay on the field longer. I like this move a lot, but I don't think she needs it in most scenarios because she already has some other defense penetration in her kit. If you're equipping her specific sub-job, you gain access to a 2-hit attack, which is pretty good, especially for raids or other stuff. It's the only multi-hit attack in her entire kit. I think that's the reason you want to have that sub-job possibly, because the other move that decreases attack and magic, honestly, instead of using that for 20 AP, I would use the Frostbite attack that gives you regen, which has the same pattern, same damage, and chance of Frostbite instead. I think you get a better deal out of that one, so not a useful ability in my opinion. Then if we look at her other sub-jobs, I said they were pretty subpar. If you're running Soldier, you gain access to Hazard Spin, which is her highest damage mod ability. So if you don't need the barrier break from her other ability with a 200% mod, you can use this and maybe hit harder. But overall, the AP cost is so high, I don't think you'll ever want to use that. And then Hazard Farm is basically useless because you have a way better offensive buff that also increases spirit and magic resistance. So you're never going to use Hazard Farm. Then if you're running her as a thief, she's going to be great for some raids or some content where steal time can be good. And if she's paired with other evasion units on your side, you can always use steal accuracy to potentially make sure the enemy team doesn't hit the rest of your guys. So some possible shenanigans here, but the main asset of this character is her main job. So let's look at a standard build for this girl. She would walk into a fight with roughly 6.4 thousand HP, 950 attack, which is decent. 100 agility is actually really fast, and a movement of 4. If you wanted more offense, you could remove the thief lore that I put on there for the self-sacrifice, right? Your resistances will go down a little bit, but your attack goes upwards of 1200 without any attack increasing vision card. So that's pretty impressive. Still though, right now, she has 32 spirit, 47 if she's using her own buff, which also throws her magic resistance to 65. If you wanted even more spirit, you could put on Titan. You have 15 more. You're going to lose out on some agility, some accuracy, and some man-eater, but instead you'll be really hard to kill by enemy mages. So that's a possible variation to this build. Otherwise, I think it's going to perform really well because it's a good amount of offense, good amount of bulk, and really high speed, which means she's going to be in the enemy's face really quickly. Then good partners for her. Well, she ideally wants to be paired with light characters because she has a light Imperial or other physical attackers that want to be good against enemy mages, right? She increases attack, magic resistance, and spirit in an AoE. She's going to be a great partner for Camillo, for example, who has spirit and physical attacks, or To Be, who with her own vision card has a really good innate spirit. So she's going to be able to take at least one hit from an enemy mage with your buff and proceed to kill them with your attack increase as well. So these are some good partners for her. Otherwise, avoid fighting a guy like Dwayne. That's going to come in with a high power physical attack, leverage your darkness, weakness, and just completely obliterate you. Also, Cloud, who's going to come in shortly, is going to have missile attacks, a lot of defense penetration, and typeless attacks otherwise. Yeah, you're probably not going to survive very long against him. Now, I've heard quite a few people say that Summer Kilphe was the counter to Black Witch Helena. I'm not convinced about that. I've run calculations, and in most scenarios, Black Rose Helena is still going to two-shot Summer Kilphe, right? She can reduce your spirit if you're built for that, she can ignore most of your magic resistance if you're built for that, and she's going to leverage her element strengthening, I guess, and your dark weakness. So yeah, she's gonna hit you really hard. And for Summer Kilphe to one-shot Black Witch Helena, she needs to get in melee range and use her barrier breaker, because in most scenarios, Black Witch Helena has her own barrier from her TMR. So overall, I would avoid mashing them together. I'm not that sure Summer Kilphe will win most of the time, unless you have a tank tanking the hate away from Summer Kilphe for a couple turns. Then sure, she'll walk to Black Rose Helena and potentially one-shot her. So here's my overall verdict, right? She's a very complete attacker. She breaks barrier, ignores defense, has some slash resistance penetration, Imperial's light. She also has really good buffs, right? She can increase accuracy, attacks, spirit, magic resistance. So she's good even when she's not attacking because she's increasing the overall power of your team. I love that. But her weakness is a huge deal. Jump 1 and height range of 1 on all her abilities except a melee range move that only has a height range of 2 still. She's gonna struggle, especially against manual opponents that can leverage that, or in some maps like the challenge difficulty 4 that we've seen recently where the carbuncles would always be higher up and you could not hit them if you did not have a good height difference ability. So that's a really huge deal, and in any kind of game mode, if the map is not good, is not a flat map, she's not going to be able to fight that well. And then she has a single damage type, so if your enemy is really resistant to slash or to light, well, she's not going to be able to go around that very well. So she has some very powerful weaknesses that I think will hold her back quite a bit. So my overall verdict is that she's a good unit, but she's not the new Dwayne, she's not the new Black Witch, the new King Mont. I don't think she's as good as Cloud. It's tough, really, because she has some really powerful aspects and some pretty clear weaknesses as well, right? For PvE, for really tough challenges like the Kraken Nightmare or the high difficulty quest 4 that we've had recently, I think she will shine a lot. She's got good buffs, so whenever we get a challenge that's tailored more towards physical attackers, the fact that she can enable your entire team while also having some decent bulk and break enemy barriers is going to make her a very valuable asset. I would give her a good rating for those missions. For Arena, I don't know. I've seen some JP footage, she seems to be performing fairly well, but I would not want to pit her against an enemy Dwayne and King Mont, right? I think she would struggle quite a bit in dealing with them. So, meh. In guild battles, if you can target specific high magic teams, especially if you know they don't have a Black Witch Helena and you're built for high spirit, I think you can completely shut down some team comps. Like if you're fighting a Yuna Sakura team comp, yeah, go ahead, you'll just walk through them. So it depends what you fight. For those very high-level guild battles where enemy teams are walling you with well-rounded teams, you will struggle quite a bit though, so I don't know just how good she would do. Manual PvP, I've spoken of her weaknesses, but I'm still giving her a fairly good rating because of how good her buffs are. She can deal with evasion, with tanks, with barriers. That's got to be worth something. But make sure you know height ranges and whatnot. If you're not familiar with all that and you can't measure range and height range very easily, you will struggle with using her, and often your opponent can leverage that lack of knowledge on your end, making sure you can't hit them at all. Auto PvP, it's basically blind arena at that point, and since she's weak against some physical attackers in the game, which are very popular right now, I would not use her in there, so she's not getting the best grade here. So overall, am I interested in her? Yes, I think she has a really interesting kit, and in the right setup, she will shine and perform very well. But I do think she's not a unit you can just put on in every single one of your team comps and expect a good performance. You need to make sure the map is right and the enemy matchup is right for her to shine. And for that reason, I don't recommend people go for her as much, right? We are going to get, in a very short amount of time, the Final Fantasy VII collaboration, and then shortly afterwards Final Fantasy 15 that's going on right now on the JP side. There is probably a summer Elcirel coming as well, who might be even stronger than Kilphe, who knows? So unless you're a big fan of her and you really plan on using her in a specific way, I think you can safely skip. She is not that unique, she is not meta defining, so yeah, go for her if you're a fan of her. Otherwise, don't pull her just to make your account stronger. She's not as strong as the meta options right now, in my opinion. So that was it, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, learned a thing or two. If I'm missing something, or if there's something different in your evaluation of the unit, let me know. I'm always glad to talk about these things. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening, and have a great rest of your day.